guys, welcome back. I'm here with Tom. We're working on the 1964 retro build of this Corvette. There's so many subjects that come up as I'm filming this, and I'm picking Tom's brain because, like I said, he comes from a very different world. Paint and auto body, high-end restoration versus auto detailing. A lot of parallels, but big, vast expanse of difference between the methodology, the mindset that goes into those two different worlds. So one of the things that we got onto, which you would have seen at the last closing of last episode, which is the science of painting. So I thought, you know what, I think there's enough material here that would be of interest to a lot of you guys that we can make a separate episode about this. So the science of painting, because you were starting to dissect this car itself, Tom, and you talked about the different spray booths. Based on the spray booth that's being used will determine the strategy. And really I could reduce it down to that, is that every situation is going to be unique based on the car, the type of paint, who painted it, the spray booth itself, what you're charging the customer. So that's a lot of moving parts. So when you take all those moving parts and you put them into this big box, it's like, okay, these are all the moving parts. How am I going to strategize based on those moving parts and to coming to that winning conclusion? Sure. Which then you said, oh, it's all about the science of painting. It's like, okay, what does that even mean? And specifically what we were talking about is different techniques, problems that you run into if you don't apply the paint properly. You talked about different paint types, how they cross-link or how they will dry so quickly. What can you kind of elaborate more on that?
Well, Sam had a question, you know, because we were talking about we were just talking about efficiency. Sam had a question about just orange peel and dryness, and you know, we were talking about the things that you learn when you bring in a paint system. And I was fortunate to bring in two systems in the early 80s that we came out of Centauri days. So the idea was, because this is so expensive, and I think when people hear numbers of, you know, $50,000 to paint a car, they're like, how in the world can you get $50,000 to paint a car?
Yeah.
But
yeah,
you know,
how in the world can you do that, Tom?
It's real easy. If you're getting paid, you know. If you're going to do it for free, well, you know, that's another thing.
Let's clarify that for the audience, because the point is like on that last video, you're saying this is 40 hours.
This is 40, no matter, I don't care who does it.
Right.
This is 40 hours.
There's some guys that could do it perhaps in a little less time. Let's say maybe they could shave an hour
I
off.
would tell you, I'm 60 years old. I'm in decent shape. I would say nobody could beat, because we have a very picky customer on this car, and yeah. He's here in the shop, Ken.
Ken, yes.
And you know, if we miss anything, Ken is right there to say, "Hey, can you tighten up this orange peel here?"
And Ken has an eye.
Oh,
he knows
he
exactly.
knows what he wants.
I've already been sizing him up, and yeah. He has an eagle eye because he's been in this business so long.
He has been doing this for 40 plus years.
Yeah.
Doing these kind of cars for 40 plus years.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody else, because by that time most people are done.
They're
with
tapped
this trade.
out. Yeah.
But Ken does, and Ken did everything. If you come to Coast Corvette, Ken does everything. Ken writes the ticket, Ken sends the frame out for powder coating, Ken buys the frame bushings, Ken sends it to the body shop, Ken oversees the paint, yeah. And now Ken is overseeing what we're doing. Right. And I love that. And I've known Ken for over 40 years.
Yeah.
You know, so, and the idea of the customer is always right, that's right, always. The customer is always right. If you do a job.
I'm only laughing because I actually have a video where I say, you know what, guys, sometimes the customer's actually not right.
Well, I mean, if you want to get paid.
Yes.
If you want to get paid.
That's where the fine art of finessing and managing expectations.
For me, it normally takes longer to argue with the customer. Just do it.
Yeah.
Okay, I got orange peel. Okay, we're just going to just do it. You know, we bid a job. You know, we're bidding it at 40 hours.
And this is one of the differences of the world, is mostly what I'm referring to, because I'm teaching absolute beginners that just want to get into the world of detailing. So we're talking about jobs that are worth, you know, a few $100s versus a job like this is worth, you know, you know,
And at this point,
massive amount of money.
if you think you're going to touch something like this and you're not a professional, you're going to end up getting sued. You would just get sued. Because if you touch this car and ruin the chassis or the powder coating or anything, you're just going to get sued. You have no business touching this car if you're not a professional. So if you say you are a professional, the customer is 100% right. You bid that job. You're legally responsible for the bid on that job. And you're going to get sued on that side of it too. So, you know, on this stuff, this is very, very expensive work. And that's what Sam and I were talking about, because Sam's doing a really cool candy red car right now. And, you know, he was really, really interested in, you know, the way the orange peel is, you know, laid out on this car.
Yeah.
He wants to make sure that his car
has you know,
as little as possible, so that you can color sand and rub it as fast as possible. So in a conventional spray booth, it's going to be different than in a downdraft. A downdraft, the air comes in through the top and goes through the floor. On a conventional booth, it's coming in on the front or the rear and blowing across the car. So the way that you paint each panel is dependent on the spray booth to minimize orange peel.
Now, which do you prefer? If you had a
the
choice.
best spray booth, there's no
Downdraft?
question, is a downdraft.
Yeah, I kind of thought you were
Heated,
going to say
temperature
that.
controlled, and because of this paint, you know, and this is something that I think it is one of the reasons that this car looks so good. Pete Santini did this car. He's a great painter. I've known him my whole life in the auto body industry.
Did you say Santini?
Yeah, Pete.
That's so
yeah, Pete Santini.
Sometimes you'll name drop. It's like, wait a minute, I know that name.
Yeah, he's
mean,
good. I mean,
we used to, which is funny because as teenagers, we didn't know our butt from the hole in the ground, honestly. But we knew how to name drop, and these names would get floated around, and like, oh yeah, Santini, that's the best. That's the best.
He's really good.
And we never met the dude, but we all said, oh, he was the best. It's like, oh, that's a Santini paint job. Whoa, really?
Yeah.
That's Santini paint? Yeah, so that's funny you say that.
Yeah, I've known him.
Talk about the
a long
Wayback
time.
Machine.
Hardworking guy. Yeah, you're right, Ken. He is. He is hardworking. But the effects of this paint job, the thing that I like so much about this paint, this is a very, very hard color to paint without getting a bunch of modeling in the metallic.
Oh, okay. Let's clarify that, because you just threw out a term that is totally unknown in my world. So
Well,
modeling, what does that even mean?
check
You say
out-
modeling, I think of some hot chick running down a run, or, you know, walking down a runway.
Check out a late model General Motors light color,
Yeah.
and you'll see all the modeling on the side
Is that
of
what
the
that's
car.
called?
That's modeling.
Wow, okay.
Because, you know, they didn't set up this, they don't even care. They just do it.
I always thought, I always
now, just
figured that it's called, you know, like
Blotchy.
blotchy.
okay, yeah. I was just gonna say, because I'll literally be driving down the freeway and I'll point this out to my wife and I'll say, I say, look at that silver car. You know, you're driving next to the freeway doing, you know, 70 miles an hour, but you can see it from, let's say, 2 lanes over.
It's horrible.
And you look at it, and I'll play this game on the freeway where I'll pull next to it, I'll pull behind it, I'll pull forward so I can look back. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to capture the different reflection and the lighting, and I've just called that blotchiness. And I say, you see how inconsistent that is? And I have to point it out to my wife, and I say, you see that? I said, look how crappy that looks.
Yeah, it does.
So
It takes away from every beautiful line
It does.
on this car.
which,
But Pete knew that, and that's the cool thing. So the base coat that he used on here, because it can get grainy too. This light of a color can look like salt and pepper underneath there. Not the colors, but the grain of the metallic. It gets balled up, but not Pete's paint job. This is beautiful. This car is beautiful. So when we get finished, all these body lines are going to accent without any distractions from what you were talking about,
Yeah.
you know, that take away from the beauty of the car. All of that goes into an expensive paint job. That all
hence the
adds to-
50,000 K
That's
and
where
up.
that's where it goes. So on a conventional spray booth, if I'm painting here, where would be the, you know, if I paint this panel, do I go to this panel No, because I still got the hood.
Yeah.
You know, and the air moving across the hood, this is going to be dry overspray over here. So paint the fender. Actually, you start in the center of the hood, the opposite side. So now you don't have a dry line in between. Now you come back over here. So you gave this just a minute to dry, so you don't have any wet edges that you're doubling up on.
Yeah.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then, you know, roof, and the same all the way back. That would be in a conventional spray booth. It's going to be a bit different in a downdraft because you're going to want to start as high as possible. So that's what Sam was interested in, because when he does his candy paint job, he wants to minimize that orange peel. So he just wanted to be educated on that.
Yeah.
And any of the paint systems, whether it's Tamco or Glazerite or Sikkens or Spieshecker or PPG, any of those paint systems will tell you, and they have a recommended procedure for their clear because of the speed on how it dries too. So contact them. Get that paint procedure from them for putting the top coat on the car so you can minimize the amount of work that you need to do.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we were kind of talking about.
Okay, well, good. Yeah, I think there's a lot in the audience that will find interest in that. I know I'm intrigued by it because
yeah, it's fun to learn.
And there's a couple of videos where I talk about it where literally I did start, meaning it's frustrating because guys will say like, oh, I've been detailing 30 years. It's like, okay, what does that mean? It's like, well, I was out detailing my Hot Wheels, you know, as a little kid. It's like, oh, really? Okay, so we're going to play that game all day long. Then, you know what? I was detailing cars for, let's see, I'm 54 years old. So I've been detailing cars 54 years old. You know why? Because mom and dad brought me home in a car. And it was a really cool car. It's just like, oh, wow, really? Yeah. Well, that doesn't count, Darren. It's like, oh, but washing your Hot Wheels counts as detailing? So the point is I actually started out in auto shop at my high school, Brea Linda High School. Anyone from this area, you may recognize that. So Brea Linda, the old Brea Linda, where the Brea Mall is.
Oh, yeah.
Actually right across the street from the Brea Mall.
Oh, wow.
So right along Birch Street. But one of the cool things is back then is that not only did we have this massive agricultural area, literally a farm, so you could go out there and see them slaughter cows, and yeah, literally,
oh, wow.
it was cool.
Wow.
I know a lot of people are gonna be like, "What? How's that cool?" Well, as a guy, it's just kind of cool. Mm-hmm. Anyhow, so we had a working auto shop, but we had a section that we did auto body. So that was originally where I started, was auto body world. So I did paint my own cars, and so I have limited experience. So a lot of this I can understand, but it's so technical when I get into talking to a guy like you that not only started in the auto body world, but then you went on to do high-end restoration. You dominated the world of Panteras, which is talk about a throwback back to the, 80s? Panteras. Then you segued into, Ferraris, and then your concourse title with, what was that, a Maserati?
Yeah. Yep, Maserati 5000.
Yeah. So anyhow, I thought it'd be good material for the audience. So thank you for that little let's say, we'll call that a ultra condensed Reader's Digest version of the science of painting. Okay, so tune into the next episode, guys. Sam's continuing to work, so we're going to cut there and bring it up in the following episode.